It's now time for our home economics lesson, which is under IPS, and at this time we are going to look at basic stitches. And what are these basic stitches? They are running stitch, back stitch, herringbone, cross stitch, stem stitch, blanket stitch, lazy daisy, chain stitch. We shall look at one stitch at a time, but in this lesson we will not finish all. We shall look at a few and we shall continue with the rest in the next lesson. Thinking of what to stitch, the type of stitch you are going to use, it is important that you look for the tools that will help you work out these stitches well. You pick, first of all, hand sewing needles. That is if you want a variety, but if you have a specific one that you're going to use, you pick that one. They are in different sizes. You also need a thimble. A thimble is a metallic cone-shaped equipment that you put on your index finger. In case you are right-handed, you put that thimble on your left hand thimble, and if you're left-handed, you put on the right. You also need a seam ripper. A seam ripper will help you to pick up threads in case you realize you're not working out your stitches well. Instead of using a razor blade that may cut your fabric, use a seam ripper. You must have a pair of scissors. You should avoid this habit of just biting the threads with your teeth. Sometimes you leave saliva on it, and that saliva will make your fabric dirty. The best thing to use is a pair of scissors, and it will also help you to cut your fabric in case you want to cut more pieces. You need materials for sewing stitches. The first thing, as a beginner, we shall need a canvas. A canvas is also a type of fabric which is made of cotton, but the warping and the wefting leaves some space in between them during weaving as they are making fabric. So it makes the needle moves very fast, makes your work easy as a beginner. We also need yarn. This yarn will work well on a canvas as a person who is beginning. It will give you good shapes that you want, but after picking up your skills, you get a cotton fabric with threads. You can, if it is decorative work, it is good to use contrast colors because they are appealing, but it depends on the choice of your colors and the type of work that you're doing. If you're using a fabric, cotton cloth, you need also threads. Now we are going to look at a running stitch. A running stitch, those are threads that run through a fabric. As the name goes, you work from right to left, just running, and if they are not fastened, it can be pulled out of the fabric. It is always used to join either fabric, or you can use it just to stick the clothes together for tacking. After tacking, you put either on your sewing machine. After sewing, you can pull out that threads just for positioning what you are going to do. We have a stem stitch. This is a decorative stitch. It looks like a stem. It looks like a rope. When you are working, it is a decorative stitch. It is a filling stitch. As you look at that working, you work from B to A, not from A to B. And as you come, you will go to D to come to C. You work from right to left. You can draw any shape and fill any shape that you want, either a logo, whatever you want. It is a decorative stitch. You can write even your name using a stem stitch. A back stitch. What's a back stitch? This is a stitch that is worked backwards, as the demonstration is done in this first illustration. You'll begin from 1, go back to 2, then pass down to 3, then pass down to 3, then go to 1 again. you work backwards. These stitches are good for you if you're mending your work where there is no sewing machine. That's why we are looking at hand sewing stitches. They are handy in case you can't get a machine where you are is a place which may be isolated. We are also looking at the blanket stitch. It is called also sometimes a loop stitch, sometimes called buttonhole stitch. Some people say they are different, but in actual sense their working is the same and their purpose is the same. They are very decorative. Make sure you identify those fabric that have such stitches and try to make a stitch on your own, a blanket stitch on your own, to see how it looks like as you compare with the work that you have got.